All right, so now let's talk about Adobe Photoshop. Photoshop, obviously, everyone knows what Photoshop is. I'm sure you've heard that word, even if you've never used it. Someone says, I'm going to Photoshop something, you know. So it's like the most famous editing piece of software. My advice to beginners is don't get too obsessed with learning Photoshop right away, because Photoshop, you know, you can't learn Photoshop. Like there are so many possible things you can do in Photoshop. Like you can't take a class on it. You know, you've got to use it when you need it. But Photoshop is really good, you know, for the more advanced type things, like when you're layering or you're trying to remove something from a photo, or you're trying to do a sky replacement or something like that, or you're trying to add graphics to a photo. Photoshop's really great for that. And, you know, but I recommend starting with Lightroom when you first start editing and manipulating your photos, and then move to Photoshop for specific things. And you'll know when it's time, you know, like the first time you need to remove something from a photo or something, you know, you can YouTube it, and you know, you'll find a video on how to remove an object in Photoshop, you know, and that's when you go that way. But also remember, I do a whole lecture on outsourcing your editing. Don't be afraid to just hand your editing off to someone else. There's no shame in that, because you know, in the end, you're doing this for a living, and you know, if you need to outsource it to someone else, it's fine. You know, and like there's so many Photoshop experts all over the world that you could find on Fiverr or Upwork that, you know, for $5 they'll do that, you know, for you, you know, and you can get on with your day and not stay up all night editing. So don't feel insecure if you're not doing your own editing. That's okay. That editing is not what makes you a photographer. It's not. Most photographers do edit their own stuff, but you know, that doesn't mean it's the right way. I hate editing. Hate it. I'm good at it. I know how to do it, you know, but still, like, I'm not going to lie to you and say only a real photographer edits, you know, edits their photos. You know, it's like, you know, that's bullshit. You know, like that's not true. There's nothing wrong with outsourcing it. So, you know, but if you're really into editing and you like the idea of it, you know, like start watching some YouTube videos and things like that. YouTube, you know, I don't really go in too much into technique in this training, because there's so much information out there for specifically whatever you would need, and I don't like confusing my students like there's one way to do it, because there's not. I try to teach you general theory and try to help you build confidence, and how to. This course is about teaching you how to make money. Okay, so anyways, so that is Adobe Photoshop.